inside the garage, and it's too close to the septic, and I have no room to go over here, so I'm proposing to put a well in this location here, back across the street. We'll install a 2,000-gallon, two-compartment tank and pump the effluent across the right-of-way up to a distribution box in the septic system here. And there is a relatively high water table, 41 inches. System will be raised and graded properly using PVC barrier to keep things to a minimum. The 100-foot buffer zone from the river's edge, this point right here, is shown in yellow. That's a 100-foot buffer. And this is the flood zone, which is a VE, elevation 16. That's pretty much it.
Board of Health approval?
I'm waiting to get the water tested.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. You did mention that.
We're trying.
All right.
Thank you, Lenny. Chris, read the
Thank you.
report.
Mr. Chairman and members, this is Brendan Donacio, 104 Sylvia's Lane. This is a request for determination of applicability filed by Westport Environmental Design. The date of the report is March 11th, 2025. Required agencies to be contacted would be the Board of Health, pending their approval. My site visit was also on March 12th, 2025. Description of the work: the owner has filed to repair the sewage disposal system on the property at 104 Sylvia's Lane. The site borders on the east branch of the Westport River. All work proposed is within a VE elevation 16 flood zone in the riverfront area. The property consists of 2 lots. The home is located on the river lot and the garage is across the right-of-way. The cesspool will be pumped and filled in place. A new 2,000-gallon pump/septic tank will be installed 40 feet from mean high water mark and 12 feet from the edge of the right-of-way. The leach field will be constructed away from the river on the opposing lot next to the existing garage. Erosion controls should be installed and remain in place until the area is stabilized and growing. This is no other work is permitted on this except just the septic system repair. Resource areas to be impacted are riverfront and flood zone. Recommendations: Westport Conservation Commission should issue a negative box 2 determination for the sewage disposal repair. Again, under the Rivers Protection Act, this is an exempt activity for an existing single-family home. So negative box 2 determination for that repair is suffice.
Do we have to include the pending Board of Health approval?
I would say that in the motion. That would be yes.
Okay.
Any questions from the table?
Anyone in the crowd? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion?
So I'll move to approve the plan for 104 Sylvia's Lane with a negative box 2 determination pending Board of Health approval.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
That was Phil and Tom. Bert's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Passed unanimously. Lenny.
Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
We do have the green cards for the next hearing already, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So the next hearing is Roy Oliveira and NOI for 17 East Beach Road, rebuild shed on Barrier Beach and perform beach maintenance. Come on up, sir.
Just come on up to the microphone, Mr. Oliveira. Just state your name for the record.
That's Roy Oliver.
I can take it from there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
This is one of the East Beach trailer lots, so we really don't necessarily require a full-blown engineered drawn plan. Mr. Oliveira recently purchased the property at 17 East Beach Road. This is a notice of intent application filed by himself. The report date is March 11th, 2025. There is a file number. It's SE 802787. The Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program comments are pending. Site visit was on March 11th, 2025 as well. Description of the work: the applicant has purchased a parcel on the left side of East Beach Road. They would like to be able to conduct beach nourishment activities with compatible materials. The proposed area for nourishment is within the access driveway and the trailer location. This nourishment must be compatible to what the existing grain size is on the existing beach. I explained this to Mr. Oliveira. Specifically, In our recommendations, the Westport Conservation should approve the use of a compatible similar grain size nourishment for property located at 17 East Beach Road. This conditions also reflect that a sample be provided to the office prior to be placing on the lot, and this is also, motion should be pending Natural Heritage final comments.
Any questions? Mr. Umber, you're good?
So parcels on the left side need maintenance just as well as the parcels on the ocean side.
Correct. Not as significant, they don't necessarily receive as much alteration during the course of winter, but that storms we had last year on December and January did cause him, or that lot, some damage, but not to the magnitude.
There's rocks all over the
He
place.
gained a little more material on that side, so. So he doesn't really need, he's just looking for a material to help, ease, the discomfort of the cobbles and stuff that can be pretty difficult to walk on. That's all.
Any other questions from the commission?
This is just an annual request? Is it-
This is a 3-year approval, and if he wishes to come back, and at that time, we'll give him an extension.
Any questions from the crowd? Everyone good? All right, do we hear a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second?
That was Tom and Phil. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. 3-0, 4-0. Thank you, sir. You're all set.
I will be mailing that order of conditions to you, to your address, okay? Thank you very much.
All right, the next hearing we have is Simmons Concrete in NOI for 6 Union Street. Install concrete pad and plantings for mitigation in riverfront area. We have Goddard Construction, Allen and Majors. Do we have the green cards?
I have the certificate of mailing.
Be fine.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Nicole Hayes, a professional wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. Here before you tonight with a notice of intent. As you are probably aware, this parcel was under a notice of intent previously, which got a superseding order of conditions. Per that superseding order of conditions, the client had permitted 1,927 square feet of gravel to be put in this area. We're here before you tonight because instead of the gravel, we want to do a concrete pad. The new concrete pad will be 4,053 square feet, and that's outlined here in the gray. Once you take out the previously permitted gravel area, it comes down to 2,126 square feet of new impervious surface. So this work area is within a 200-foot riverfront area and within bordering land subject to flooding. The analysis that we did to meet all the performance standards for the state and local have been explained in that notice of intent, but I will go through an overview of them. To do this impact, we are proposing a planting mitigation area. Here's a little blow up, little section of it, but it's going to be this area right here, which was cleaned and grubbed of all invasive species prior. And what's going to be put in there is 4 black oak trees, 6 white pine, 7 high bush blueberry, 7 sweet pepper bush, and 4 witch hazel shrubs. That mitigation area is greater than a 1-to-1 replacement. So this is going to be 2,126 square feet of new impervious surface, and this new mitigation area will be larger than that at 2,867 square feet. Also, This will impact bordering land subject to flooding. Oh, let me go back for a minute and just explain how we are still underneath the 10% allowable impact for riverfront area. The total riverfront area on site is 365,019 square feet. 10% of that, which is the allowable impact, is 36,501 square feet. In the superseding order of conditions, notice of intent, we proposed 26,390 square feet of impact. This new one, like I just said, was 2,126 for a total of 28,516, which is less than the 10% of 36,000. So we're allowed to do this under the riverfront area. Our mitigation is a greater than 1-to-1 planting of native species. We are also going to be, as part of the improvements to the riverfront area, we will be increasing the stormwater swale here, and this will also take into consideration the mitigation for the bordering land subject to flooding compensation, and those numbers. So the proposed work, which is this concrete pad area right here, will impact 35,326 cubic feet of flood storage. We're going to compensate at 110% for 36,923 cubic feet. So it's greater than a 1-to-1, it's 110%. So for that concrete pad, we've met all the standards for riverfront area and bordering land subject to flooding compensation. We are going to increase the stormwater system on the site and increase flood storage. So that's really the project overview. There's engineering calculations and flood compensation calculations in the notice of intent package, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
The fence.
Yes, and then the removal of the fence is also a part of this notice of intent, and it's going to be this area right here. This currently is a fence that we're just asking to just remove. This fence along the street is going to be removed and replaced, but this one along the river we're just going to remove. And that will help with wildlife passage and all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris? your
Mr.
report.
Chairman, members, Simmons Concrete, 6 Union Ave. This is a notice of intent application filed by Goddard Consulting with plans designed by Allen and Majors. Nicole Hayes is here representing Goddard Consulting. The date of the report is March 13th, 2025. There is a file number. It's SE 802786. The site visit was also on March 12th, 2025. A reminder that, as Nicole mentioned, this site was and still does have the superseding order of conditions. There was discussion with the state about trying to amend the application. The state suggested this new NOI be filed instead. They felt the amendment was, I believe, greater than what they would normally allow in an amending situation. So just a little history. Detailed description of the work. The owner has filed to make changes that were approved by Mass DEP in the superseding order of conditions. The owner is requesting to replace the previously approved gravel area, which was 1,927 square feet, with a concrete apron. This new concrete will wrap around the building and connect to the approved portion on the west side of the building. This work is within the previously developed riverfront area, and the combined disturbances in total, as Nicole outlined, remain under the 10% requirement under the Wetlands Protection Act. A total amount of disturbance will be further compensated with 2,867 square feet of mitigation plantings in the north portion of the inner riverfront area. The owner also wishes to remove a section of chain link fence that was approved along the river's edge. This site will maintain fencing, again, along Union Ave, and will have a gated entrance, as it currently does. This basic request is to remove the visual barrier that still lingers for the owner along that far reach. The stormwater basin constructed will provide also a physical barrier between the development and the river. There is compensatory storage, as she mentioned, provided to increase the overall ability of this area to maintain and contain any land that may be flooded during those events. All work will continue to provide a 25-foot no activity area along the wetland edge, so they haven't further encroached any further than what was previously agreed to. And finally, the site falls again with bordering land subject to flooding, and a need for compensatory storage is required. The design of the project has provided the flood storage compensation along the same hydrological connection, meeting the standard. 35,3628 cubic feet of fill will be compensated with 36,92783 cubic feet provided in this design. So they truly have met the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act with this design. The mitigation plantings, I think, are an added feature that we get for what they're doing in mitigation, which again was part of the project, was to remove some of those invasives on that superseding order, which goes in hand with what the owner wishes to compensate or create on the property. Was more of a open visual aspect with native vegetation along the river's edge. So I think the design definitely falls within accordance to those regulations. Again, there is an open orders of conditions on this site that is still active. I do not know the file number at this time, but it's not necessarily needed. So recommendations for the final, the Westport Conservation should approve the proposed new concrete pad in place of crushed stone, remove the riverside chain link fencing with the requirements to provide mitigation of 2,867 square feet along the inner riverfront area, and maintain a compensatory flood storage as designed in the plan. And also the mitigation plantings as provided. I don't have any corrections to the suggested species. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. So this is a site that we did a site visit on, right? With the
Yes, we
original-
did. You're absolutely
the
correct.
original
Yep.
one? Okay, and so this is just changes to that?
In relative to
plan.
what was already considered an approval. So,
Okay.
again, this gravel to concrete apron really doesn't impact the area. As most historical people understand, this site was much more utilized many years ago as the fish factory that took place in this area, and part of the building. I think some of those remains were just recently dismantled down along the lower section of the property, so
Okay.
I think it works well.
What's going to be the ultimate use of this area?
He's using the building for storage. That's all I really know.
Correct. He has installed new, very architectural garage doors. He's upgraded the stonework. He's
Yeah, it's looking
basically
nice.
bringing an old building back to life that has sat in very disrepair for a number of years. So it's basically for storage of equipment and such. I don't think at this time, there is even a residence up on the corner there that hasn't even been brought to life yet. So that is the last remaining older structure that, well, it's not the oldest structure, that was more recent. That's it.
Any other questions?
Is that stormwater basin actually designed to take the runoff from, so it's all sort of one system, it's not just a one-to-one area?
Correct, correct. The whole stormwater system that went with the prior approval was for the paving of the existing area, that they were moving paving to the west side of the building. And that whole stormwater facility was installed for that at that time, the compensation. There was actually a very unsightly storage of utility trailers and tires and everything within that area just above where that stormwater basin is. And they came in on previous to remove all that unsightly as well. So the property is seen, besides the trash removal on the opposing side of the river, it has seen a tremendous uplift.
Okay. Any other questions from the crowd?
Then the
Sean?
Aquifer Protection District?
Excuse me?
Then the Aquifer Protection District?
Yes, it is, correct.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So I'll move to approve the plan for 6 Union Avenue.
We have a second?
Second.
Who's Phil and Tom? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Leanne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next hearing we have is Paul Jonkus, RDA, 11 Sandpiper Drive, construct cement slab for shed in disturbed area in flood zone and riverfront area. Do you have the
Yeah, sure.
green cards?
No green cards on
No, you don't
RDA.
need that? I'm sorry.
See one more?
Do you want me to put that in the folder or no, Chris? Do you want me to put this in the folder or just leave it over here?
You can just put it on top. We got plenty of them, but-
Okay. Go ahead.
John Connell, SciTech Engineering in New Bedford, here on behalf of Paul Junkus, the applicant for 11 Sandpiper Drive. This is an RDA that was previously approved and it expired. It shows an existing disturbed area, a play area, which is mulch. And his proposal was to put a concrete slab there for a future shed. And it was approved back, the original plan date is 2020. So I'm assuming it was approved back right around then and would have expired maybe a couple of years ago. And he's looking to reactivate the project.
Mr. Chairman, members, this is Paul Jonkus, 11 Sandpiper Drive. This is a request for determination of applicability filed by SciTech with John Connell representing. Report date is March 12, 2025. There is no file number required for this project. The site visit was also on March 12, 2025. The description of the work, the owner has filed to construct a cement slab within a previously used play area. The cement slab will be 120 feet from mean high water and 90 feet from the edge of the BVW. The railroad ties will be removed and the existing wood mulch. The slab location will be adjusted slightly to maintain the 10-foot property line setbacks. Work in the riverfront may be permitted when the activity is at least greater than 50 feet from mean high water on a structure or use prior to 1996. The owner is utilizing, again, this previously disturbed area and replacing with a slab within the same dimensions. I don't think he's contributing to any adverse effects. So I would recommend the board, Westport Conservation Commission, should approve the request for the cement slab in a previously utilized area for 11 Sandpiper Drive with a negative box 2 determination. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions from the table? From the crowd? I see none. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
That's Tom. Any seconds?
Second.
Bert. So Tom and Bert. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Next one we have is Cherry Stone Realty Trust, NOI, 2040 Main Road, construct fixed pier gangway and floats in the Westport River.
That is slightly deceiving because there's already a pier there.
Go right
so
there.
It's like relicensing, just for the record.
Here's the green card. There you go. This guy's like a pro. Thank you.
Good evening, Sean Leach representing Cherryfield Development. This is a 2038, 20, and 2040 main road. Actually, 2040 is owned by Driftwood Realty. This is a common dock for those two residents, but it's on the 2040 property, so that's why we're filing it. What's happening here is there's two notices. We're filing the dock first, or do you want
The dock is first,
Okay,
yes,
the
sir.
dock is
Yes.
first. So there's an existing dock on the property, extends out, it's just one float, currently up to here. The owner wanted to extend the float because there are two residences using it, so they wanted to build a little more room. When this was first approved, the original license plan, there was a 2-foot requirement separation between the bottom of the river and the bottom of the float. Now there's a 30-inch requirement, so in order to meet the 30-inch requirement, what we've done is we've slid out 10 feet, put a 10-foot section, slid the dock out, and we're adding these floats here, so there's 2 spots for boats to tie up. And this would meet the 30-inch requirement and not require float stops and not require anything else. To do that, we need basically 3 extra piles that don't exist now in order to stabilize the floats, and 2 piles up at what was the hard dock, which comes off an existing seawall. This meets the requirement of Chapter 91 and the Westport dock policy.
Want to read your report, Chris?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Cherrystone Realty Trust at 2040 Main Road. This is a notice of intent application filed by Sean Leach with Northeast Consulting Engineers and Consultants, March 14, 2025 is the date of the report. We're still waiting a file number, Sean?
Yeah, I don't know why.
So this is all contingent on the file number, also on Mass DMF comments and Marine Services comments, which we haven't seen yet. Description of the work, the site visit was also on March 13th, 2025. Description of work, the owner has filed to modify the existing licensed dock at 24 Main Road. The owner will install a 9-foot by 4-foot fixed pier section off the existing seawall and install a gangway down to 3 floats. The floats will turn and extend south along the property line. This will allow better boat access. The floats will require piles driven to refusal with float stops installed. The new pier will not extend further from shore than what is currently licensed. So I don't think the Marine Services Director will have trouble with this proposal, but nonetheless, we still are required for his comments. Resource areas, land under the river, land subject to coastal storm flowage, riverfront, and shellfish, land containing shellfish. Recommendations for the board, the Westport Conservation Commission should approve the proposed fixed pier gangway and floats with standard dock conditions, pending the file number, pending Mass DMF comments, and float stops must be installed, as well as Marine Services comments. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Chris, just to clarify, you're saying that it's not extending any further out, but if you're doing a 9-foot fixed pier off the seawall, isn't it extending a little bit further out into the water, or no?
Again, it's very little out, isn't it?
It's very little.
Okay.
It is very little, actually.
The gray area for the other one is like,
Yeah.
it tees right under that last float.
Okay.
Right. There's a little slight, it's slightly increased further out just to pick up the 30 inches, and the only reason, I mean, it's kind of crazy, but we couldn't put 2 boats on this dock because it encroaches on the riparian rights for the dock next door and their ability to get to their dock. So the best way to do this was put an L shape to not have to disturb any more than it's already. And again, it's a common dock for the right away with the house that's up here and the house that's being, both of them are being rebuilt as we speak. So
Okay.
How much closer does it get to the one to the south?
what's that?
Like
How much closer to the one to the south does it get?
if you're
The one to the south?
Yeah, is
Yeah.
that-
We're 25 feet off we're 19 feet off there, and theirs is 25 feet off this riparian right line. So we're getting a little closer, but they were also notified, they didn't have any problem, that was a
Nope.
long property. They have a similar setup on their property over here.
Okay.
It's the best way to do it. We still leave 40 feet of channel. It's the best way, as you know, this is right on the cove between the Fontaine Bridge, basically abutment, and Westport Point. And there's a little cove in here, and it's pretty deep water. It's 9 feet deep in here, which is pretty significantly deep for that section. But we've left that because there are other docks north of here,
Correct.
and there is docks south of here, and this, rather than stick out further, or rather than we try to keep it within the riparian rights for this particular property.
Okay.
Right now, it's the same distance off this property line, it's just 4 feet. That's the way it was approved quite some time ago.
Any other questions? No. Seeing none from the crowd? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Tom, second.
Second?
Phil, second.
Can you just, Tom, put pending file number and the comments needed from the state agencies?
Motion to approve pending file number and the comments needed by the state agencies.
Thank you.
Do you want to second that again?
Second.
Phil seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Leo. Thank you. You get to stay up there. All right. Next, we have same applicant, Cherry Stone Realty Trust, NOI, 2040 Main Road, repair and maintain licensed stone revetment, seawall, and Westport River.
Okay. Again, Sean Leach, same property, same, the reason we have two notice of intents here is this is part of an existing license plan to maintain the seawall, and if we did it all as one, his ability to repair the seawall while I was waiting for the license would be compromised. So he wants to repair the seawall. So there's a seawall that exists, the length of this property, essentially, and right now it's a masonry combination concrete and small stone wall, which is very low. We wish to raise it up about 1 foot. The current height is at 3.7. You'd like to raise it up to 4.7. Also build it in a way that the Army Corps deems a better way of designing walls, but not as a vertical concrete wall, but as a, what they call a breathable stone wall that goes at a 1 to 1.5 slope down to the water. It makes it more stable. It also provides habitat for anything that's between mean low and mean high water. We intend to keep all within the existing license plan, all the construction and activity in the existing license plan, and the work would be done basically at low tide with booms put in effect or anything they've done to replace the seawall.
What's the change relative of what will be required for the backyard? Are you proposing to fill the backyard?
No.
To the top of the wall?
No, we're gonna keep the same elevation
So
of the backyard.
you're just gaining freeboard to the wall,
Right.
like similarly for the commission, the southerly neighbors are all doing this as well, so.
Yeah. I mean,
The
everybody-
Pauls and the neighbors just to further south, to that have also done this similar request, is to raise the wall approximately a foot and a half to gain a little more. Because we're getting moon tides flooding this area, and then the water gets trapped in there, and it kills all the grass.
And the other problem, not only killing the grass, which is why you put an escarpment. This one has an escarpment. I think it's slate going behind the wall. The waves coming up over are eroding behind the wall and compromising behind the wall also. So building it in a way that, there's a drainage layer behind the wall with some geotextile fabric, and building it not a vertical concrete wall because it takes a beating from every wave, will make it last hopefully a bit longer. I don't know, sea level rise, how long that will last. Unless my lifetime anyway.
Great, thank you, Sean. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, Cherry Stone Realty Trust, again, for 2040 Main Road. This is a similar notice of intent filed by NEC with Sean Leach representing. Report date is March 14th, 2025. There is no file number. It is still pending. This is also pending Mass DMF comments, Division of Marine Fisheries. The detailed description of the work, the owner has filed to repair and maintain a stone revetment along the river's edge at 24 Main Road. The site has an existing stone revetment that will be repaired in place with no expansion proposed, only raising that height. The plan lacks detail on how the wall will be repaired. Sean got wind of this, and he has provided us a much needed detail of that cross-section of the wall. It does provide us with an elevation and shows us how there would be stone and Marafi fabric installed behind the rock to stop those fines from washing out and causing that wall to be undermined. So thank you for that, Sean. So disregard that comment. This again is land under the river, land subject to coastal storm flowage, riverfront, and land containing shellfish. Recommendations for the board for this particular project. The Westport Conservation Commission should consider approving the proposed license and maintenance of the existing stone revetment pending Mass DMF comments, file number, and standard dock conditions apply.
All right. On that wall, is it just free rocks, or is it actually held in with mortar, or is
It's
it?
both.
It is both.
Now it is. What
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
doing is going to be a stack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it depending on how you construct it, the size, you need bigger boulders, basically, because this is like field stone,
Yeah.
concrete, which is not heavy enough nearly, and the concrete is fairly weathered and fairly old.
Yeah, so what they did in the past was they cap it with concrete, and then they would have a masonry guy try to come and chink the outside of the wall, and the concrete gets brittle
Knocked
and
it.
deteriorates with
Pretty
the
quickly
salt.
with the salt.
So this is a much friendlier system, as Sean mentioned.
Yeah,
Does
Army
it
Corps has a
allow-
Lacking the
guideline.
lime and stuff that can be detrimental to the small invertebrate species. So, and also this does provide some crevices.
So the water can flow through then, too, essentially.
To that fabric that will be in that stone, yes.
Okay.
So there is certainly, because high tide's gonna come up to, Sean says 2.6 to 2.7.
Right. And the moon tide is up to the top of the wall, not over, and
Right
it's
now.
fairly flat coming off, and it's way up in the yard. They're hoping to build, obviously, a little higher.
Don't forget a moon tide with a storm like last year.
Well,
What
that's part of
happened?
the problem with
Yeah.
all these seawalls, especially along this part.
You may not be
Westport
able to
Point.
maintain it over every event, but
but
this is gonna be majority of them, right?
The idea is larger boulders as opposed to what most people have with basically rubble walls and everything. Because you need, a 3-foot wave can push a 900-pound rock. So it doesn't take much to move a field stone.
Okay.
Any other questions from the table? No good. Do have a motion?
So I'll move to approve the dock restoration plan at 2040 Main Road, subject to Mass DEP file number, comments from Marine Fisheries,
Correct.
and with standard dock standard conditions applying.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was Phil and Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Leon.
Leon,
Maybe move along now.
just any notes on this one, put 2038/2040, because the C. Yeah, we'll put it on both, yes, just to reference that there are two properties of the same ownership.
You say the dock, not the wall?
Both of them are.
Both of them are.
Can you say in that cross section, or you gave me one?
I gave you one, I put one in the box upstairs.
Thank you.
I put 2 actually in the box upstairs.
Thank
If you need it, I can give you, you can take this.
Nope, I'm good, as long as.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, thank you.
We have, I believe, another continuance. We have Blue Cat Pine Ridge Estates, 46 to 52 Gulf View Lane, Westport Lanes. File number SC 802697. Are we continuing that? Do you know the date?
Yes, that is to be continued to, I am giving it to April 29th. They haven't come forward from the parties involved in this project, so
Okay.
I know they have extended to, I believe, June with the ZBA, so that's my
So
recommendation,
should we
is
go to
April
May or should we go to
29th.
June?
Well, again, I'd like to be conservative, not knowing where they stand, so for now, I'd say the 29th of April
Okay.
until I hear from them.
Do we have a motion to continue the Blue Cat Pine Ridge Estates to April
Would you like to
29th?
speak on it? I know you have, Brent, so I want to give you that moment, at least, if you'd like.
Are we not continuing it?
What's that?
Are we not continuing
No,
it?
this is in a butter, so
Oh,
it's
oh, okay.
just someone, you can make a motion to continue.
Okay, and then we can listen?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So,
So moved.
Phil made a motion, second that, for continuous April 29th.
Second,
That was Bert, so Phil and Bert. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It was unanimously owned. Just state your name for the record, and you can go ahead.
Brent Pereira, 26 Westport Lakes Drive. I just have two quick questions. Just curious if there's been any headway regarding any previously involved agencies that I brought up with the Concom in the recent weeks.
Well, you received my email sent to Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. We have not heard anything back from them.
Okay.
I have given the owner of Westport Lakes currently, Mr. DiGiamo, as I also CC'd you with, his reference for him to look into what is required to get his final approvals from Mass DEP for the outstanding superseding order of conditions that was issued many years ago for this project. So that is the only things right now.
Okay. I guess the question was the main question is, will this fall definitively under DEP, or will it fall under local Concom? Meaning the project with the proposed 40B. Because that, I guess the question is all of the land was initially enveloped with the DEP, and my understanding is that the applicant was here last month, and they were filing an NOI under local Concom. My question is should that is that an inappropriate procedure, because the original land mass all fell under Mass DEP and also fell under, well, along with DEP, they were to conform with superseding order of conditions.
That's a good question. Superseding order condition is issued after a butter may intervene or the state intervenes themselves. In this case, this was an appeal on numerous occasions. Actually, there was 2 appeals from the butters for this proposed project in the very beginning. If a new proponent comes in for a project, it comes to the local commission first. So it never would go right to DEP. So they are required to get approvals through us. If that doesn't come by our vote, then they have the right to appeal to the state. So I understand you're claiming that all the property was originally under that. But remember, they withdrew that phase 2 development, which wasn't really even proposed on the first order of conditions. They totally waived the rights to make that area developable. They waived it, and they called it, right? They called it that it wasn't going to be used, and it was a single family house lot. The only strange part about this is that Gulfview Lane was never constructed, which infringes, in my professional opinion, because now the state has a superseding order with them having permission to build that road, which was never built. So the state has to issue a certificate of compliance that lists what is being approved and what has not been commenced because the order has expired. So there are conditions where the state could say, we're approving what currently is in place, but all the things that are not done are not approved on this. So they would have to go back and refile. So right now we have a 40B filed for the creation of Gulfview Lane and the extension off that for 38 lots. So it does overlap. I do understand why you asked that question, and I'm curious to see how DEP would reflectively comment.
I guess the concern that I have is that the town is kind of looking at it as 2 different things now, right? The problems that we currently have on Westport Lakes Drive subdivision and its non-completion over 18 years, and then the new 40B proposal.
Right.
My argument, I guess, is that they're not 2 separate things. They weren't, at least in the beginning. And there are a number of confusion and questions and things like you just spoke about that clearly need to be sorted out.
But you understand, and you do have a lot of knowledge on this project. This project has been changed through that process 3 times. So this is a very confusing, I've reviewed this application, this whole folder, because now they're coming back on me, they can't find any of this paperwork.
Who's they? I'm sorry. Through the chair, I don't know if I can...
Mr. DiGiamo that currently is the one that purchased these 17 lots. So he bought this with the understanding that all this was satisfied to his knowledge, and none of this was ever done. He wasn't even aware that the new proponents, or the original owners of the property, attempted to do perks on the north end beyond this existing cul-de-sac. He wasn't even aware that that was done by the Scolanti family recently, as in last fall or last summer. So I'm not defending anybody, but you also understand the planning board is also under review because of their existing covenant expiration. Again, so I am trying to find the best solution for what is currently there. And I hope to your support, that have tried to reach out
Yes.
to these entities.
I do appreciate that.
To try to get this resolution stated. What Mr. Ferrera is also referring to is in the original process, this filing triggered NEPA. So they had to go through a final environmental impact report. In that final impact report, this area of this phase 2 development, where now we have a 40B, was pulled as part of their review under this impact statement. And in their final approval, they said that if this land is ever reconsidered for development, you have to go back to NEPA for a notice of project change. And this entity of the 40B has not spoken on this matter or hasn't even discussed that. So that...
But they're required to do that?
I believe they are. So I was going to bring it up later, but I will now. I have forwarded a letter to the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs citing their number that they have for the project. I didn't write that down. And requesting them provide us comments if they believe that it does need a notice of project change based on their prior decision.
Do you feel with the push from the state on 40B housing that you probably may not get an answer?
I don't know if we wouldn't be given an answer. I think they'd be entitled to respond, but I think that there could be some concern with that respect, that there is a need for housing. But again, that's what the 40B triggers and allows. So we lose local authority except conservation and the Board of Health.
But from a conservation standpoint, where does our
We're
authority
pending a review of this based on this Blue Cat filing, but I think improperly for me, I didn't realize that this MEPA comment should be coming out. So I think before we proceed with anything that they're presenting to us, we need to have that MEPA determination. And if they do not need another project change, then we can proceed and move forward with once they gain the ZBA's final approvals.
So I stated in the previous meeting, and my concern is, how do you put that type of essentially high-density housing and support all of those houses with groundwater for 38 individual wells within probably less than 100-foot radius from septic systems all the way through the entire development?
Well, no, their septic system has the radius because they're putting a combined system.
Oh, they're putting a
but
combined
the well
system,
radiuses
From
from each
everyone.
other may become influential. I mean, wells draw to a certain distance, and the more maybe one household draws could affect others.
So do we have the authority to do an analysis like we've done here on Main Road for public water supplies and various other things, the impact on the groundwater?
That's
even though it's
something
not,
we may...
even though it's not a public water supply, do we have the authority to?
No.
Okay.
Well, I think DEP is going to weigh in on whether or not the configuration that they're proposing needs to be regulated as a public water supply.
I believe Phil is correct. I think the Board of Health on their end is looking at this and requesting their opinions on that very fact. Correct. And they're staying under the gallons per day, which triggers them to be to a sewage treatment facility. So this is all contingent on gallons per day number.
And that's just based on bedrooms per household?
Yes, that's state regulation.
By bedrooms per household, so if you only have 2 bedrooms, but you Could have.
So this, I believe, the capacity is to that borderline level.
Okay.
They haven't come before the Board of Health or indicated what their actual formal plan is. I mean, the original, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. To say, I think the original plan, or not the original, but one set of plans was to have shared wells. That is, every 2 homes would share 1 well. I don't know what is now currently being proposed.
Still shared wells at this time.
Still shared wells.
Yes.
So-
That's incorrect. They intend to put 38 individual
Oh, I'm
wells for each.
sorry, I meant 38
so-
individuals, yeah.
So I just, and, yeah, so,
I would just like to respectfully disagree with something that was said earlier as far as, just because they removed that parcel from the Phase 2 association, it was still, I argue that it's still encompassed by the entire look over by NEPA and Mass DEP. Just because they removed that from the potential build out, it definitely created them the ability to do what they did back then. But I would argue that just because they removed the construction from that doesn't mean that that parcel does no longer fall under the DEP. And I think that's my concern as far as who determines that. And again, like, they were here last to file with local Concom. And if that's not the case, if they should be going to DEP because it once fell under that, and it still does, in my opinion.
But you never go directly to DEP. That's not the process. The process goes to local first,
Okay.
because it's being considered a new project. It's, again, the property lost a lot of environmental issues. It lost the species of concern that the state had designated when they originally went through this project. They in turn found vernal pools on the property and they found spotted turtles, but they didn't find the box turtles that were what were the crucial species. They also found 4-toed salamanders within one of the breeding pools towards the west side, which is close to your backyard. So
Right.
a lot of things changed in the property, as I previously mentioned, including that big environmental issue, because that's why they were doing a preservation of almost 200 and something acres with this
I'm
original
not arguing the
CR.
natural heritage component. I'm not arguing that at all.
No, I know you're not, but I'm just trying to give the whole air of the thing. So there's a lot of, yes, I think DEP should weigh in on this. And I know you have spoken to some people there, so I am hoping, again, it's not for me to do, but I'm urging the applicants and the previous owner, or the owner now, to get this done. And the last part of that is, we both agreed to, this replication that was never commenced for this division or this crossing Westport Lakes put in, and that's something that needs to be done. So they're not gonna get away with not doing that. The question is, where are they supposed to do it?
If
Because
they're putting all those, yeah.
it's so everything is, again,
So I came up with this issue on the last planning board meeting when the Westport Lake subdivision came on the agenda, where as far as finishing it, because it
Correct.
has been unfinished for 18 years, and I asked them questions about permitting, and then some requirements, like the replication that was supposed to be done, and who's gonna keep an eye on that? And the planning board, and I understand everybody has their business to watch over, and probably they don't, it's not their business to keep an eye on those things, but
correct.
those things all exist. And then the allowance to release the road essentially, or finish the road, all of those other things are important to get done as well, where I just need to make sure that stuff is being kept an eye on, to where it seemed, to be honest, my feeling I got from the planning board was that we're just gonna allow them to finish the work. And I asked the question about permits, and they don't deal with the permits portion of it, right? The planning board just says, yep, we approve this, and then you go to the permit process. My argument to them was, they had permits, expired permits, under a number of different state agencies. I just need to make sure that that's being followed through on.
Correct.
Where even with the Mass DOT permit, and I know this isn't this is going way, way off the tangent, but they have a Mass DOT permit for the access to Route 177 that expired, and then they're supposed to start construction back on the road again, and my argument is, well, did they re-secure those permits with Mass Highway, with DEP, with everything?
They are moving forward with that, but I agree with you, they're a little late. So, again, I am not gonna let this drop because this has been brought to light fully now. So I do say to you that this development has sat idle for 18 years or plus, and I came into this after it was already developed, so I wasn't aware that the replication was not done, in all honesty, so.
So we have 5 houses now on the roadway over the last 18 years that are relying on SMS construction that was never certified and it was never maintained, but maybe one time the whole entire time. And my argument was that they shouldn't allow any more building to be done until that stuff is finished and certified.
If you saw in my letter, I did say to Mr. DiGiamo that I am not allowing him to do any work in any sense until he can do work in the roadway, but he can't do any work within my jurisdiction, which is the buffer zone, or within 100 feet of any of those wetlands until he satisfies these concerns, so, okay?
I guess my only last question, and I guess I would assume that this is a direct conservation issue, is as far as work being permitted in buffer zones. I understand that it can be allowed, but how much can you allow? Half of this project appears to be in a buffer zone, like almost all of it.
The stormwater basin's more closely related to the wetlands. The roadway itself is not. Sections of it are, but not the majority of the roadway.
I understand they're not wetlands, but they are all definitively within buffer zones, like well within buffer zones. But I mean, how much is allowable where it starts to not make sense, where we have such significant construction and roadways and house lots and all of that stuff within the buffer zone?
Well,
how much of that, at what point does that become an issue?
Well, if it goes beyond maintenance, like I said to you prior, they're allowed to do a certain amount of maintenance to an existing stormwater basin, which they do.
No, I'm sorry.
Further
I
expansion, further
apologize.
construction.
Further expansion.
This question was specifically for the 40B. For the 40B application.
I would say
that project is so substantial, in my opinion, and the density of that is so big, it's so dense, where 38 houses on this little T road that's all dead end with circles and hammerheads. And I understand the 40B process allows waivers for much of that, but I guess my question is, how much? At what point do you say that even though you're not in wetland, or if you're like right up against it, and then clearly then you're now building roadways and houses, foundations in buffers for a significant amount of that project, how much does the board go, okay, this is too much, before you go, we are now making significant construction almost the entire, well, I don't want to speak incorrectly. If you review the plan, you can see that much of the roadway and much of the eastern houses on all those lots and those wells, they're all in the buffer zone.
Correct, on that new proposed development,
Right.
yes.
I guess my only question is, how much of that building in the buffer zone, at what point do you go, this is too much?
There's thresholds, and a project can be considered approvable just based on that. It's not, we have to determine there's a total adverse effect that's going to seriously affect that resource area to sustain itself as it is now. Either they're gonna, you do lead to some things, they could be drawing too much water, they could effectively dry out maybe the way that wetland receives its runoff, because it's a higher area, a lot of that water, groundwater seeps in that regime and comes down into that lower section. So impact-wise, it's very difficult for us to determine that overall impact is going to be that detrimental.
And part of it is that we condition the construction projects to, ensure, that that the acts related to the construction do not impact the wetland, right? In terms of, the trenching that they do, the stormwater that they need to control, I think it gets more complicated when you're saying, well, you know, they're creating impervious area in a, and because it's upland, it's not in the wetland, and so the standards kind of acknowledge that, and there are certain activities like roads that you know, are acknowledged, to be permissible, under certain conditions. But it's like the devil's in the details,
I mean, they've
and that's
already,
we really have to get the details.
Standard in the wetland regs is, will it alter the wetland? And as you build more and more stuff in the buffer zone, at what point is it going to alter the wetland?
Yeah.
It's hard to determine.
Well, again, the buffer zone's a discretionary area where you're allowed to do certain uses and
Yeah.
activities, so
I think-
I understand what Brent is leading to.
they've already
Yeah,
cut
yeah.
off some of the engineering standpoints where they would reduce, like, roof runoff was supposed to go into specific drains.
Into dry
They're already cutting that off. They already took it out. Like,
That may be something that we require though, so.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, we always have you recharge groundwater with the roof leaders into a dry well
My
system.
understanding is they already took it out of the project.
Well, that may be not the benefit of them, per se.
I
All right.
thank you for your time.
No, I appreciate you coming in. I think you're a good concerned citizen, and I'm trying to help you out as best we can through this confusing process, but, okay?
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, that's it for,
We got one last one, Mr. Chair.
oh, I'm
We
sorry.
have a COC. That's the last thing we got.
Certificate of compliance, hold on 1 second. And flip the paper up.
Favorite place.
I don't have that in my packet, do you want to do it? Certificate of compliance.
This is Rory Couturier. This is a request for a certificate of compliance for 488 Old County Road, file number SE801753. This is a reissuance of a previously issued certificate of compliance. The applicant has applied for file number SE801753. Again, description of the project, the owner is requesting the commission reissue a certificate of compliance that was previously issued and not recorded. The commission thus needs to re-sign with a full certificate of compliance release. Recommendations, this is when the head store was created, so this is when he initially did some renovations in the septic system to upgrade the property to be what it is currently today. So the Westport Conservation Commission should vote to reissue a certificate of compliance for file number SE801753 that was previously granted to Rory Couturier at 488 Old County Road. And this would be re-signing of that previously issued certificate of compliance.
Right, thank you, Chris. Do we have a motion?
Move to issue the certificate of compliance.
Yeah.
Second it.
Phil and Bert, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
It's okay. Jason was here, we would have figured it out.
All right. That's it for the agenda and the
Correct.
smart agent remarks. We have one bill, the East Bay Media, for a total of $369. Do we have a motion to pay?
Motion to pay.
Second.
That's Tom and Phil. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Liam. Does everyone need to sign this, Chris?
Just you need to sign it.
Okay.
I'll pass it around, everyone can sign it. But we did make a motion in the past.
Before.
But that was during COVID. I just something.
We have a bunch of minutes which we cannot go through. We don't have the appropriate attendees. We had one individual attend, but then everyone else did not show up. So it is not Mr. Merchant's fault today. It is everyone else's fault.
Even though we were stating it was when he wasn't here, but other than that,
No.
not him today.
All right, Chris, do you have any new business or unanticipated business?
I kind of did mention to you that I did issue that letter to the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, so that basically is all I had. And also, just to add to that, that I also emailed the owner of Westport Lakes to determine the Mass DEP's superseding requirements and make sure he moves ahead with that to get this site into compliance. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anyone have anything else at the table?
Move to adjourn.
Second. Here's a second. That was Phil and Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. All four voted to leave.